there, this is Rene Bukava, and welcome to AutoNet. So today I want to talk a little bit about using Elm with the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. Now I've talked about this before, it's been a while though since I did, and the Elm language has changed just a little bit, especially in how you do the Elm JavaScript interop. That has changed since I did a blog post on this I think like a year or so ago. But I just want to talk a little bit about how you can use Elm inside of your application. You get some stuff done. It's really neat to work with Elm. It's a very nice language to use. I really enjoy it. And one of the things you can do is you can just start building pieces of your project inside of Elm instead of having to go full on and rewrite your entire application in Elm. It's probably not really feasible, but you can use it and sprinkle it in places that it really comes in useful, which is in building out components and stuff, which is really neat. So the cool thing with Elm is that it's not just a language, it's also a framework built into it, which is really neat. It's a lot of fun. This is by no way an Elm tutorial. I'm just going to show how you could use Elm to do some things and then integrate it with the JavaScript API in one way or another. But if you want to look at more information about Elm, the Elm-Lang documentation is probably the best place you want to go to at elm-lang.org. There's a couple of other great videos that are available out there. You can go to Pragmatic Studios. Let me actually get the URLs in here. There we go. So you actually go to the elmlang.org and you go to Pragmatic Studios. They've got this video course here, which I've watched. One of the videos is still using signals, which was the old way of doing communication. But the other one has been updated. It's pretty good. It's a great little intro video. This one's free, so integrating Elm. So if you just want to start trying some Elm stuff out, this is a great free video course, which is awesome. Glad that's free. Front-End Masters has a great course on Elm done by Richard Feldman himself. He's a big Elm advocate and user over at NoRed Inc. He's done a lot of different videos and pretty active in the community. But this video here has got so many different pieces to it. This series here goes, I think it's like 8 hours long of just Elm. Okay, it's more than that. It's like almost 10 hours of just Elm stuff, right? Which is pretty cool. So you can sign up for Front-End Masters here. There's also a Getting Started on Pluralsight, which is just over 2 hours. So this one was pretty good too. I saw this one in here. But yeah, there's a lot of resources out there for you to learn Elm. I'm not going to show you how to learn Elm. I'm just going to show you a couple things you can do with it with the JavaScript API. So here's the application I want to build. I like to use portal stuff a lot because I think it's Elm kind of it's pretty cool for doing the portal cards and doing things with them and whatnot, which is kind of neat. So anyway, here basically I have an application where I'm bringing in my portal items. I'm going to display them in the portal cards, so I get my thumbnails. And say for example, I want to look at this one here. I'm going to open my map, zoom into my layer, just zoom into my portal item. I can go back, I can open up this one here. This happens to be a web map, so it's going to load that web map, then display to my application, come back, and so on and so forth. Do some other pretty cool stuff. Alright, so you get the idea. I got my items, got my cards, I click on view, and go to them. One thing you may not notice, let me click on here. Alright, so this is my web map that I had here, and it's loading, but if I go back, nice little subtle blue line at the top, right? I just kind of wanted to give it that little effect. Come back here. I think I have to zoom in one more for this one. Start showing my vector tile hex bins here. Okay, cool. So let's start looking at some code and see what I'm doing here. So this is my main JavaScript file. I've got my basic OAuth stuff I'm doing in here. I went ahead and offloaded the query stuff into a separate file. So this file does all my querying for me. I've got a little file that does the animation for the little sliding the window in and out. Not much of a big deal there. So this is all just regular JavaScript, my functions for doing the expand, the collapse and everything. The little button to go back from the map to the portal view. So here we go. So I log in, I load portal, so I got my portal, load my portal API stuff in, and I query for all of my items that I am the owner of. All right, if you want to just see what the query looks like, it's right here. So I'm just searching for stuff where I am the owner, the person logged in the portal. And then I'm going to go ahead and embed my LMAP when I get everything, right? So this is how you embed the LMAP. You basically just need a node, some sort of a element on the page. You can embed the app. There's also a full screen option, but I'm not going for the full screen option. I just want to embed it into part of my application because half of this is the portal cards and the other half is going to be my map, which Elm is not going to touch. All right, so then I just need to add the selected and updated in here. Actually, I don't think I even need the updated anymore. I'll remove that. So I just need the selected, and that's it. Okay, so then I've got my, this is my communication. We'll get back to that after the fact. And then we'll cover the rest of this here because this is the interop stuff going on between Elm and my app. I want to show my package.json though because I think this is kind of cool. What I was able to do here is I'm using ES6, so I want to build my ES6 stuff using Babel, all right, to output to a directory. I also want to compile my Elm code though at the same time. So I want to compile this Elm file, output it to a JavaScript file, and do that at the same time as I'm watching for changes to my JavaScript code, right? I don't have to have two different processes running in two different windows or something. So I got this npm watch, installed that in my repo here, and I just have this little watch in here, and then this watch is going to run both Elm and the build at the same time when things happen. So I could just run npm run watch. I should be good to go. I will probably get an error since I removed that that little bit in here that's updated. I fixed this part here. So now if I go to my cards, Elm here, so here's the actual Elm itself, right? So Elm is pretty cool. It is Haskell-ish, not really quite, but it's got my types and everything I can work with. If I want to do the interop and I want to expose this Elm, you can call it an application or Elm view to JavaScript, use the port in here. So I got the port keywords. I'm going to port the module, cards, and I'm exposing everything. So I can grab anything I need out of here and use it. Well, actually, not anything, I don't think. Just my port stuff. So, but it just makes this everything in the cards module available to other Elm applications. So I bring in some stuff in here. So remember I said that Elm isn't just its own language, it's also a framework itself. Everything's kind of together. So it's got its own HTML stuff that I brought in here. These are my HTML elements. This is my attributes for HTML, and then events. I'm going to be using the on-click event in here. So I create a model. This model is going to consist of a property called items, and that items property is going to be a list of card. And what's a card look like? This is what a card looks like. Card has an ID. It's got a title. It's got a thumbnail URL, item URL, a snippet. Here's that selected. I told you we're going to have in here, and I don't need the updated anymore because I removed it from the other part. So Elm make fail, right? Keep calm, take your time to fix your code. We'll try to compile again as soon as you change your file. That's awesome. All right, look at how nice that error message was. So let's come in here. So I removed the updated. What happened here? The record is missing the updated field. Here we go. This is my error right here. So I can remove that. I don't need that anymore. And we're good to go. Successfully generated my apps or cards. All right, so that's one of the great things with Elm is the error messages and debugging in Elm is pretty awesome. You're going to get some pretty nice error messages. They're going to direct you on how to fix things and stuff. So, okay, so there was my card. That's my type. See this maybes here for maybe snippet, maybe thumbnail URL. Thumbnail URL could be undefined or null. I think it just be undefined when I get my item back from Portal. So there may be a string, there may not be. And we'll see how you can pull the value out of these maybes here when we get down here a little bit more. So I have to have a sample card, and I'll show you why I have to have a sample card. Hint has to do with the whole maybe thing here. This is just like a default card. None of this data is real, just dummy data. So I have an initial model. Now remember, my model is a list of cards with items, right? So I have items and it's just empty right now, nothing in it. So then I have this init function that's going to get the whole thing started, right? So init is going to use my initial model, and I'm just going to have this command.none, so nothing's going to happen here. I'm still actually learning more about how to use commands, but command.none is used most of the stuff I've been doing so far, so it's pretty interesting stuff to work with. I am using this for port stuff, which I'll show in a bit. So notice the type signature here. So I have an init, and I have a type signature where it's an argument that takes it's a model, and then a command with a message, right? But in this case I have command.none, so I'm okay. Now I got my messages. Now here's my messages from application. So I have a message of select that takes a string, and then change that takes a model. Now that looks kind of like actions inside of Redux and Flux with React, doesn't it? Yeah, it's pretty familiar there. Okay, so our views. So I have a view that's going to take a card, right? That's from our, that we defined our type up there. And it's going to return an HTML with a message. Okay, so if I take my view card, view here, and have a card argument just brought in, then I have this let here. So basically, if you, this is very similar to almost like the JavaScript let, but not so much because, well, it's local. This is really more local than let in JavaScript is probably, because what I'm saying here is that this let, I'm going to define some variables here that are only valid in this case here, this code I'm writing right there. So basically I have this card style is going to be equal to, and then very simply I say that if the card selected is true, then I return this class string back, or this string of classes back, else I'm going to return the string of classes back. All right, this is what adds that little blue bar at the top of my card that I showed you earlier. It's not much, but it was a nice little effect when I was toying around with stuff. And show val, right? So I've got a method called show val that takes an argument of value. All right, and then let's do a little case statement with that value. If the case, if value is nothing, I return an empty string, meaning that if the maybe of value is nothing, so there was no result, return empty string. If it was just a value, then I return value. This little bit here is how you can extract values, how you can extract the data from these maybes that you're working with inside of your code. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Maybe. So there might be better ways to get the data out. Maybe there's a helper I just don't know about or something, but this works. It's pretty simple to do. I can also do something dumb like serialized data or something like that. I guess I could, like, val plus val and return it twice kind of thing. Weird stuff. I don't need that though. Okay, so then we get into some cool stuff here where we start defining what the element's going to look like. So this is going to be my card itself. So my individual card is going to be a div. The first bracket of arrays you get in here is going to where you can define the attributes for the element, my DOM component that I'm creating here. And the second bracket would be where you start inserting any nested components, right? So I have this class here, the card style, and I've got another one here that takes figure, and we'll look at what figure is in a second. So I've got figure, and that's going to have a actually no, the figure is coming from up here. That's a DOM HTML elements. I've got a figure with a class here, and then it's got another nested component, which is going to be the image, the card image. Now look, this is pretty cool here. So remember the thumb URL was a maybe string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe that value of the thumb URL, whatever it was, into show val, extract my value, whether it was nothing to return empty string, or whether it was just a value and return that actual value, and then I'm going to pipe that into the source attribute for the image itself. All right, so that's what this little pipe does here. I pipe this way, pipe that way, and I could go. You can always go back the other way too. It's kind of neat if I were to put the pipe on the other side. It's really kind of cool. So, all right, so this works out how you can extract a value from maybes here. And I got another div in here where I'm in my class, and I got my title, then another div with the content, and again with the snippet was also a maybe, so I do the same thing here. I'm going to extract my value from that maybe, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the text attribute to show the text for that property. All right, and then I got my button right here. So this button is where I do some other cool stuff in here. So I've got a button, and I want to on-click on here. And the on-click, I'm going to send the message select with the card ID. Now remember, we come back over here, the messages that we can send are select with a string, and the ID on the cards are going to be a string. So I can send that message to the on-click event, and we'll see how that gets used in a moment here. So I got my actual view. So this is what these returned from my cards component. The view takes a model, returns HTML with a message. And this basically means that there's some sort of event happening on here since I'm returning it with a message. We have the same thing up here, same return type. So it's a DOM element that can return a message. It means that I got some events going on, or I could have some events going on. So basically I have the same thing I had before. I have a let where I'm going to say the card list is going to be, I'm going to map over all of the items that are in my model, and I'm going to map the view card function over that. And if we come back over here, this function here, that's what this is, a view card function. That's how you define everything in there. So I'm going to pass that function, map that function over all the items to create my DOM elements, which are really virtual DOM stuff. It's all virtual DOM instead of Elm, and return that back. And then I'm going to place that card list into this div here, which is a big old long group thing. This is basically how I'll just wrap up all the elements in there, and that creates my actual DOM elements. So that is what actually creates this right here. So all this is getting created there. It's my individual card, and here's the main div for all the cards, all wrapping them all up nice and clean. All right, cool. So how do I get that select and the on-click working with the select here, and how do I get data into my this view to update it with my portal query that I did? All right, so that's where this update comes in. So the update takes a message, and it takes a model, and it's going to return a model with a command and a message. All right, so see how this type signature is working here? So here's my message and my model, which matches up with these. The reason you see these little arrows here is that means that it's a function, right? So it takes a message that returns a function, that takes a model that returns a function, that takes it's going to return the model and the message. And you can do this here because everything inside of Elm is curried, so I could pass both the message and the model together, or I could pass them separately if I needed to. I had an interesting use case where I did that earlier, where I needed to pass the message without the model and then pass the model later. It was weird, so I took it out. So okay, so we have I do another case statement here for the message. So if the message is of change type and I've got an argument of items, remember this should be the new items, then I'm just going to return those new items. I'm just going to, whatever, I don't care what the current items were, I'm just going to return new items. And I don't return return command on none. Now if I selected something, remember in my on-click, I am sending the card ID, which was a string. So if I select something, I have an item ID. And I'm going to go ahead in here, and I'm going to say that I have a function called selected, takes a property called t, or takes an argument t. If t.id is equal to item ID here, then I'm going to update that record. All right, so this is how you do the updates. You say t, little, I think it's called a pipe in here, and then the property one update and what the new value is going to be. And this is going to return a all new object with the value is. So everything's immutable in Elm. So you're not updating the current one, but you're updating, you're creating a new one, updating it, returning that. That's essentially what you're doing. So select the true, or else it's going to be selected false if the IDs don't match. That way it updates all of my other, if I do something like this, see over here. So if I had selected this one, that one's got the little blue thing on it, but then I select this one, it's going to update the other ones to make sure that this one that had the blue one before no longer has it, and it's only on the one that's actually selected at the moment. Okay, so then I have this function here called find card that takes an item ID, and again I've got a nested let in here because I got another function. There might be a cleaner way to do this. Maybe if I took the time to kind of move this out or something to pass in some other arguments, I could probably clean this up a little bit, but this worked out okay. I was comfortable doing this. I think if I went one more nested let in, I probably would not do this. So basically I'm gonna have a function called valid, and this is basically just another way for me to get a maybe out of something, and we'll see why after the maybe in a second. So I have a maybe value for whatever reason that's going to return nothing. If it returns nothing, I'm going to return back the dummy card. Remember that sample card I created earlier? If it returns just the value, that'll return back the actual value itself. And that's because when I do this function here, this where I say this function here where I say card is going to be equal to, and then I want to filter on the items to kind of find the matching item ID. Filter returns a maybe in here. So there may be a result, there may not be a result. That's why it's maybe. This is how you do anonymous functions inside of Elm. A little slash with the method name in here, and then I'm gonna do my little predicate here to figure out if I've got my item ID or not, and then I'll pull the first item out. I'm sorry, this was the one that returns a maybe, the head, because if I have an empty list and I try and get the head of the list, there's no result. But if it does have items, I do get a result. So you may get a result, you may not get a result. That's why you have a maybe. So it's list.head. So I pipe in the filter into the head to pluck out my single card. And then that's why I do the valid card bit here. And then I pass that into this model update. So the model, I'm going to update the items to map them over the selected function. So basically I'm going to map over that function, put the little blue bar on top of the card or not. And when I do that, I'm calling this message select, or I'm calling this command select card, and I'm going to find my card with the item ID. Remember, I got this find card here to get my to find my card, pass the item ID to get my valid card out. So whatever card I clicked on, I want that card. I'm going to send it to this function here. Now, what's that function do? Let's come down here to the subscriptions and the ports. All right, let me go to the port first. Then we'll come back to subscriptions right now. So in the ports, I have this select card here. It takes a card and returns command and a message. All right, or it's a card and it's going to return command message. I have another port here called cards that takes an argument with a model with a and returns a message, and that returns a sub with a message, a subscription and a message. And that's why I have the subscriptions up here. So I've got subscriptions that take a model, that return a subscription or a sub with a message, and I define the function here, subscriptions with the model, and I pass cards, my port, the change message, right? That I had up here. That's the message right here. It takes the change in the model, meaning that this is curried. So now all I need is a model to get passed into it to update that. Okay, cool. Kind of makes sense. I'll show how this gets used over here. Actually, just go show it now. Okay, so here's my cards. So here's my app ports cards sent. So once I get my portal items from the portal API with the JavaScript stuff, I'm going to send those items into my Elm application using the cards port. That is this one here. So I am sending them in there. All right, got that? Huh? Makes sense? Of course it does. All this like Elm communication and stuff may take a little while for you to get used to. Once you do though, once you start seeing how things flow inside of Elm, it starts to just click, and you find that it's a really nice and elegant way to write your application. It's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of it. So then I have here another port that I'm subscribing to. I'm subscribing to the select card port. See, I use the subscribe keyword. And when I do that, I have a function in here. It's almost like a dot thing. It's almost like a promise, but not really, because it can happen more than once. And I'm going to pluck the ID out of whatever card gets returned. And all I'm going to do is all this code here does is just find the item, the portal item that I have that matches the ID of the card that was selected, and I'm going to load that portal item or web map onto my my map. That's it. All right, so that's what all this does here. Here's a select card that does the, what was that? Subscription there, right? Cool, very cool. Okay, so what's the main do? So the main here is a program, and this is a helper method from Elm to let you do this really cool stuff. And then we have a never, so program, a never takes with a model and a message. So these are all the things that it needs. So how did I define the program? You can click in here, and you can, and it's pretty cool too. I'm using Visual Studio Code with the Elm plugins, and as I start hovering over my types, you may have seen this already, it's going to give you how these types work, which is really kind of cool. All right, and all this is about the Elm architecture stuff. All right, so we can look at that in a second. So the program takes this record with a init, equal to my init function, takes a view, and I already have a view function, takes an update function, I already have an update function, and takes subscriptions, which I'm going to pass it my subscriptions that I defined earlier. All right, so if we come over here and just look at some of the Elm stuff, and you look at the documentation, the documentation is great. If you look at the Elm architecture, this is going to explain how the Elm architecture works, which is just pretty simple by itself. There's a lot that you can actually do with it. Like I said, this was fairly easy to throw together after a little bit of trial and error, because I tried to get a little fancy on some things, and no need for me to get fancy. This thing just worked out as is. Pretty cool. So try it out, play around with it. There's some cool stuff you can do with Elm. Like I said, I haven't tried to write an entire application built around Elm, and like maybe trying to embed the map into one of the Elm elements that I create in my DOM here, for example. I haven't tried that yet. I don't know how well that would work out, but so far I've done some Elm stuff for like single pieces of components, and I'm still learning as we go along here too. I'm not quite sure if I start to incrementally update an application with Elm, something like this here. Do I just do this for every piece of the project I want to update to an Elm project, or do I have to do nested components here? And then I start running into some oddities, and I kind of got it now, but I have some questions about if I start nesting Elm components and I've modularized my Elm app and it's a little larger and it scales. I've seen people do it. I'm just not 100% there to figure out how to do it correctly. And I'm sure a lot of this I'm not doing correctly, but it works and it's nice and it's a good start. So there you go. I suggest you try out Elm, give it a shot. I'm a big fan. I'll be doing some more Elm stuff throughout the year for sure. And that's it. Thank you.